We got some heavy hitters up here. Some really great people.
I'm going to move up.
Some good friends. Get warm and cozy, guys. Come on, scoot in. All right, so let's maybe go down the list. I'll let them introduce themselves. Filip.
My name is Filip. Everybody at Native Instrument called me Filip. I've noticed that. But anyways, I play in a band called Poolside, and I produce a lot of other people, and yeah, that's me.
Okay. Jason. Oh, Jason doesn't have a mic. I guess you got to share a mic with Don.
Hi.
All right, next.
Oh.
Wait, no,
You got to introduce yourself.
Oh, my name is Jason. Nice
He
to
goes
meet
by
you
No
guys.
Such Thing.
What's up, guys? I'm Dr. Genius, producer, DJ, one half the band, WZRD. Nice to meet y'all.
My name's Nicholas. I'm in the band Phantogram, and I do all the programming stuff for the other group. We have Big Rams with Big Boy from Outkast.
All right.
I'm probably the least famous on this panel, so my name is Konstantin. I run the marketing at a band called Native Instruments. So really glad to be here with all you guys and explore this topic.
All right, well, let's first give a shout out. Jason's playing Coachella this year, so let's give it up. No Such Thing. You've already played Coachella. Philly, last year you played, right?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. You played Aaron Style. You already played Coachella.
Not doing Coachella this year.
No, but last year you played, right?
No, it was 2012.
2012, and you just did Aaron Style yesterday.
Flying
Los
to Paris
Angeles,
to play some arena shows with Muse on Thursday. So.
All right, then he's going on
That'll
tour
be
with
fun.
Muse. They're opening up, so. And then Dot produced the Kid Cudi record, which if you drove by in the traffic today on Sunset at the Palladium, there's like a 3-block line because it's sold out. So these guys have something to say up here. All right, let's start with the theme of tonight, the sonic hooks and stuff. I want to start with what record did you guys hear when you were starting to make records as a producer that kind of changed your life, where you heard that record and said, I want to do that? What record really influenced you? Nick, let's start.
This is so easy. It was Kid A. I was a jazz saxophonist. That was my life. That's all I wanted to do. And the second I put Kid A in my car stereo my friend gave me, Everything Is Right Place starts and Tom York's voice is all chopped up, and I thought the CD was scratched because I was like, what the fuck is happening here? It's all, and then I had to listen and went, oh, you can make other sounds than just. I was done. I bought a computer and I went and bought Complete 2. This is back in 2003, and that was it. That was it for me.
So we're talking about Sonic Youth. So that one vocal sample where his voice is going back and forth. That
That's Chaos Pad.
Chaos Pad, exactly. Yeah. I'm certain everybody knows that, right? Do you guys know that? It's the oldest trick in the book. There was the Chaos Pad. The Chaos Pad 1 had this feature where you could sample and then you could just kind of
play
rub
forward,
your finger.
play back, change the pitch.
And when you hear Tom York's voice, that's really a perfect example of a sonic hook, right? Yeah. Which was a very lo-fi kind of sound. Mm-hmm. So let's go to Konstantin. I want to ask you.
Just say from our perspective at Native, we make all these instruments, we make all these sound packs, and it's always super interesting to see what people do with it. It could be exactly what we intended to do. Like we make a synthesizer and the sound, the presets is getting used all the time. Or it could be exactly the opposite, which seems to be more the case when technology is misused. Like you were saying, the example with the Chaos Pad. I think there's probably a misuse of technology that created a sonic hook. Sure. So that's for me super interesting to explore.
All right, Dot.
I gotta come clean. I got into music really, really late. Like, I've always heard music, but I wasn't like, it didn't draw me, and I was learning music simultaneously, like, as I was getting into it. So, and I didn't have cable for a long time growing up. So the first music video I actually saw in my lifetime was Genuine, So Anxious. And so I followed Timbaland, and like, he was working with Aaliyah, Genuine, that whole crew. And that was like really the first sonics that I heard that inspired me to want to do more than just learn how to play other people's music, Just I wanted to take it further and kind of create my own from there.
So it was the song that you saw in a music video.
Right. So
Was
like
it a record you're driving and you're
no, I've heard songs.
you're riding your bike
and
to school?
Right. I liked songs and it was like, all right, cool. Wasn't even really listening to the words. I was just listening to it as a whole. Like, this is cool, you know? And, but when I saw the music video, it really gave me a chance to like listen to the words and like visually see and make the connection. And that really inspired me to like start producing for real, you know?
Cool. All right, Jay?
Yeah, I just remember, just growing up here in LA, I just always just heard just like rap, like hip hop, like West Coast stuff, like a lot of Dre stuff, like Warren G. And like, yeah, my first CD was Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style. My mom got it for me at a swap meet because there's like a cartoon on the cover. And yeah, I just like listened to that nonstop on like a little Discman. And I was just always curious how those sounds were made, because at that time, it wasn't, it was, you know, like I'm 31 now, so that time I was like really young, like 10 or something like that, and I didn't know, it's crazy, you can't even figure out how that's made. Now you could just like search with any app and just learn everything in like 5 minutes. But yeah, I had that curiosity, and once I saw I had a lot of older friends growing up, so like once I saw like one guy with an MPC or like one guy with like a Roland workstation, I was just, I had to get that. I don't know how, but I had to like do it, you know? And then, yeah, when I was 13, it was like freshman year in high school, like one of my like old good friends, like that was like, I started going raves like mad young, like 12, 13. And then just one of the dudes, like he just gave me like a bootleg copy of Reason and Fruity Loops. Guess that's how it started.
That's how it started. So
All right,
was it sound that really attracted you, or was it just how did they do that? Because I think for any of us, you might like something, but then if you're a geek like all of us, a nerd, you figure out how did they do that? You know
Yeah,
what
I mean, I would hear, you know, at that time it was a lot of Neptune's beats and like Timbaland beats, and those sounds I heard were sounds I've heard on like an actual keyboard before. So then I was like, man, I had these like ideas and like melodies in my head, and I was just like really just trying to figure out like how I could get either a drum machine or a keyboard just to like do that. Right. So it's really cool right now that it's just so accessible, and like you could just do it on your phone or like whatever, you know.
Cool. Next.
Yep. This is not like the album that made me make music or whatever, but I had a big revelation with this like dub, reggae dub record by Scientist. It's called Scientific Dub, the album, but I don't really know what the song is called. It's East of the Scientist. Everything has a scientist in every title, so it's really hard to remember. But anyways, the thing that means to me a lot, especially nowadays when you can like perfect anything, is that this song starts with a organ melody, and it's really out of tune. And it starts the song off with it, and then it goes into a dub, and it doesn't come back till like several minutes later. But every time this song has come on, I'm addicted to the fact that it's like detuned in such a like out of tune in such a like perfect way. It's really hard to describe, but it's super addictive, and I think that song or that whole like style kind of made me aware that it's important to have lots of kind of like human error in music, especially nowadays, because you can literally like work on something forever and clean it up completely, and it's actually kind of really easy to just like add some elements that are not perfect to give it some kind of life, dare I say, soul, you know. So yeah, Scientist.
Okay. So when Jason, you were talking about where the samples came from, I want to know with you guys how you find the sonic thing. For some of us, we like to sample, make it your own, like with Brian, what he showed earlier. Do you guys sample a lot, and how do you sample? Like Dot, we talked the other day about various apps to go on YouTube, and you could kind of nick your own stuff and make it your own and flip it, blah, blah, blah. Or do you go out with a microphone, or do you, there's many options. So maybe let's start with Nick.
I do all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's just so easy to capture sounds. I mean, I remember Blue made a microphone that you could attach to your, like the first iPhone. I had that, and I would just walk around. That's how I would get my first samples. I love going straight from, I mean, the internet is so great, and I've been using Soundflower since I first heard of it. I mean, it's anything, and I just go right into Live or Machine and sample. I will sit on the couch for hours just taking stuff. It's constant, or records, anywhere you can get sounds is, I think, the most fun way. It's nature's presets,
So I think maybe you should explain what that is, because there's Audio Hijack, there's Soundflower, maybe there's
So
Audio
Sound-
Finder is one.
Yeah,
I don't know.
so Soundflower, it's basically an audio interface inside your computer that lets you take, like in my Mac, you have your sound option. Instead of saying play out the computer speakers, you say play out Soundflower. Go on Ableton Live, what's my input is Soundflower. So when I hit play on YouTube, I see it inside Live. I just hit record, and then I can just start chopping it up in seconds. It's instantly.
Same thing with Audio Hijack and a few others. So Dot, that's the same thing for you, right?
When I first started producing, I was sampling vinyl. My dad has an extensive record collection, so a lot of African music, a lot of early 80s, 90s music. And I would just sample it on a Roland MV8000 at the time and just chop it up. But now it's, like you said, it's just so accessible. You can get sounds and inspiration from anywhere, any type of recording, even if it's a bad audio recording. It adds some flavor to whatever it is you're trying to do. So I do that. Like, I find things online, and if it inspires me, if I hear like a small part, or even a loop, I just snatch it up and just see.
You just need the tiniest little thing.
Exactly.
Got
Exactly.
it. That's
It's the catalyst for the idea.
So same thing for you guys? Or Jason?
I just, yeah, pretty much. I think that's how, like, a lot of us are, finding sounds these days. And to me, the biggest thing is just experimenting as much as you can, and just always changing, like, your approach, And yeah, just try to embrace, like, all these like new apps and like plugins and all this stuff that's coming out, because yeah, it really does only give you newer ideas, you know what I mean? And further, what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, I was using stuff like that too, like Soundflower. I think there's one called like Piezo. How do you pronounce that? Peizo? Piezo?
I've heard a million different.
Yeah, but it's an app,
Piezo.
and then it's an app, and then you could just open up your web browser, and it'll just record whatever's playing out of your browser. So I would go to like like Vine, for example, and search a hashtag of like a certain sound, or like skating, or like someone grinding on a bench or whatever, and then I'll just record that and just use that as like a snare or like hi-hat. I won't do that all the time, but you always got to start in like different types to just like whatever type of music you're making. I'm sure a lot of you guys aren't making just one type of music, or there's like one tempo, so
So do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, what's the exact question?
Well, just the art of almost sampling. I think everybody has a different method of making music, whether it's sampling or beats. Like when we were with 40, the producer and partner for Drake, he was telling us he generally starts with melody, as opposed to, let's say, a lot of hip hop records start with beats. So he's like, beats are last. We do melody and we ease into beats. So, and everybody has a different method of sampling or factory sound. So I was just curious, do do you have a?
Yeah, I don't sample a lot anymore because when I started making music, electronic music, it was like a Commodore Amiga computer with like 4 channels of 8-bit sampling, and everything was based on sample, and it was amazing. But I nowadays, it's not that I don't like sampling. It's just more that one of my like day jobs is I recreate samples for major labels, and
My day job. That's
and
good.
You've probably done some of that for us.
it's pretty expensive to get caught. So I mean, you know, a lot of people like are really good at like micro sampling and doing really like tiny little bits and stuff. But I just kind of like at some point decided that I'm gonna, if I want like a loop or a drum beat or whatever, I'm just gonna try make it somehow. And as again as like also to just like add an extra kind of like random element to my tracks. So you know, I usually, with percussion, for example, I like to like mix up drum machine with percussion loops and then play a couple of live percussions on it to kind of create this chaos. You know, it's like if you like add like 4 or 5 layers of badly played percussion, it kind of like makes sense together. You know,
So let's talk about the factory sounds, because I think this is something you can identify and you can't. I remember when I first started to make records and you would hear a sound, you would identify it with a drum machine, or at least for rhythm, like a DMX or a Linn drum or a Linn 9000, the LM1, and that was attached to a record, like a Prince record had a sound or a Cameo record had a sound. Nowadays, you can't, you know what I mean? It's like EDM kit 101 or hip hop kit 102, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what does that mean? So, do you guys care, or do you pride yourself? I mean, I know some people are, you know, you hear a record, you're like, fuck, that's preset 102. Like, what are they doing? You know, you can't use that patch. Do you care, or do you really, are you a tweaker where you just dig deep?
I don't care, like, but I tweak. That's the thing too. And it started off for me. I was so against using. I've never used a loop in anything I've done. I know that like Josh has when he's made Phantogram stuff. Like he'll loop something, but I'll still make something my own. But I used to think that I would never use a factory. But it's the same thing as you're picking a sound. I just like the way it sounds. And like as a saxophone player, like. I'm playing a saxophone, so's that guy, so it sounds like a saxophone.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna make mine sound different. You get your own sound, and that becomes the character, you know. So you're gonna make a song, just because you're using a sound, you're not gonna end up. If I told you to use a preset and I used a preset and go write a song, we're not gonna write the same song.
Exactly. It's like
just
a
because you hear a
guitar,
sound,
6 strings.
there's a guitar, yeah. The Beatles use guitars, so the Stones. Fucking who knocked off who? It's not a cheating thing. You can make something your own. And it's so easy to throw one plug-in or 40 on front of it, and it's
your
different.
own sound.
It's
Exactly.
just the slightest thing, and it's not the same. So,
We're gonna say, Con?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna add to that question here. For me, it's just interesting. You all have, you know, a signature sound, you know, in whatever project that you're currently working in. It's very specific. It's very you. It's very unique. How do you get to that point? It doesn't matter what you use, but you know, how do you get to that point where it becomes your own, or you know, you've got that, you know, signature, or you got that sonic hook in that track?
I think that just comes from getting familiar with your taste. It's a taste that you like, and you just know it when you've got it. It's not using necessarily the same, because I can open up any kind of synth, even a compressor. I'm always going to end up dialing something that like my ears go, that tastes good. That's all it is. I don't know what ends up doing it. It's the process of eliminating things I don't like. You know, just create, and go, I don't like this. And now I'm hearing the stuff I like, and that's how I get there.
I think your experiences growing up, what you're around, what surrounds you, what you hear when you grow up, that all impacts what your sound is, because you identify what sounds good with what you heard and what you were drawn to. So I feel like everything around you kind of shapes what your sound is, and you might not know exactly what it is, but you know what you like.
What you like and don't like, yeah.
Exactly. So that's your sound. Once you make a track and it's something that you like a lot, that's.
But do you guys think that with technology you have to work harder? Like, I can give you an example. Like, before, like 100 years ago, I don't know, you would, like the Phil Collins sound, is the gated reverb. You had to gate a room of the reverb, where now, like, every machine is a fucking, anything you want, there's a preset to hit it. So you almost have to work harder if you want a signature sound, because the sounds are so good, especially in machine. I can tell you, I mean, from someone who's made a career out of making custom sounds, it's like, I don't care. That shit sounds great as it is. I'm gonna make it sound a little better, but it's exactly what I hear in my head. You know what I mean? So it's a blessing and a curse.
I think it's like a lot. Sorry. I think it's a lot about also like why you're making music and how you like the process of making music, because it's kind of like what you make out of it. Like basically there's nothing you can't do with a computer right now. There isn't. Like, you can sound vintage, you can sound, but like with presets and with samples and all this stuff, it's kind of like you have to just decide what your process is and why you're doing it. If you want to make a top 40 pop song and you want to use presets because that's your goal, I mean, not saying that you just pick presets and that happens, but then that's the process. Or you want to like experiment and have fun, that's the process too. And me personally, I'm just trying to like make it sound like it's not from a computer, because I find it pretty easy to make it perfect. So I'm kind of just trying to like mess it all, screw it up, But that's just me. It's like what I like. So
that, do you have a thought, Jason?
Yeah. It is a weird time, because like there's like so much like oversaturation. You know what I mean? Like, like when you're going through SoundCloud or whatever, you hear like the same stuff like over and over. So then to me, what's important is to focus that whatever you're trying to make, and it's just honest music. Like, I'm not trying to sound corny or anything. It's just sometimes I have a hard time listening to like honest, like real music. You know what I mean? That like actually makes you feel something. Right. And to do that, so one of the things is just to take a risk. You know what I mean? Because like you could stay in a certain, lane or whatever, but just take the risk. Like, whatever those influences are, like just take that turn.
But that's a good point. Would you all say that being fearless as a music maker, you almost have to have less tools? Like we always talk about, like, I think about the best records I made was when I had nothing. Like a sampler, a drum machine, and a keyboard. But now we all have so many tools. You don't know how to use half of the tools, often, right? So is it to be fearless? Do you need less tools?
Absolutely, less. Most of the writing that we do is on the road with our laptops in our laps and the headphones plugged into the jack, and it's all done with just a mouse. We're not using a studio. The last record is not, like, we'll track some stuff in the studio, but we are sitting with our headphones on
you're
with a
going
laptop.
on the moment
That's it.
of inspiration.
Phones. We have a little Zoom recorder. We'll record.
So
our
do you use
guitar, vocals, doesn't matter.
Use iPads or tablets? I know Jason does.
I mean, I do myself,
music.
yeah, but
which apps? I'm just curious. Like iMachine or
the Lemur. I use the Lemur
yeah,
exclusively.
We're big Lemur guys, me and you. This is how we met.
That's how we
years
met.
ago.
I could say this though. My favorite producers right now, all they use is like a PC with Fruity Loops, and that's it.
No, seriously,
And
the
they're
less
making, like, the
use
best
less.
shit right now.
It's great to own all that stuff, but the less you use, I mean, it goes back. I mean, it's the KISS method of keep it simple, stupid.
Exactly.
Do less. Like when I started learning the guitar and stuff, you just use one string at a time and try and play something creative. You can add another one. The less you do, you're going to force yourself to make something that you like listening to. And that's hard for us with laptops, with I open up my plugins folder, it's got 648, and it's like,
Yeah.
I have no idea. But if I'm not going to worry, I'm not going to sit there and go, I got to make sure I use all of them, because trust me, there were years where I got to be, know all these things in and out, and the less I use, the much happier I am.
Yeah, I agree. I think less is more, for sure. I've noticed that options kind of kill the creative vibe a little bit when you have too many options. So what I like to do is I like to load up a certain amount of plugins on my computer and like exhaust that. And then when I fully exhaust that, I'm like, all right, I need some new plugins. Let's get rid of these and let's get some new sounds of inspiration and stuff like that. But I noticed, because I got a lot of drum samples, I have a lot of presets, a lot of synths, and I just end up using the same stuff anyway.
So what was the line on the Kid Cudi record, that line that goes through?
Which one, the synth bass?
What was the one that we were, Con?
We're talking about, I guess we were talking about Day and Night back then, but
On Day and Night.
Oh, that was off the Triton keyboard. At that time, I didn't know much. I was teaching myself, so I would just get any piece of gear that I thought looked cool. So I was just getting like a lot of keyboards because I thought, I had a room full of keyboards. Oh, I'm a producer. You know what I mean? So the Triton was good, and I didn't have a lot starting off. Like with the Triton, that's a standard keyboard that people were using, and I was just going through the sounds, and I got pretty familiar with that keyboard. Then it grew to a motif, and then a novation, like just.
So you were using more kind of workstations.
Yeah.
And a lot of presets at that time.
Right. Going back to the less is more thing though, but I learned that later. I thought more was more is more.
But that was more at the time.
Yeah,
But I mean, obviously, you have to take this role that more can be more on this panel. But I think it's about mastering one of your tools. I mean, lots of people they purchase Complete, and it's got Complete Ultimate. It's like 70 instruments in there. You will never be able to learn all of them in depth. You would never be able to learn all the synthesizers in your studio in that depth. So what we advise users is to really focus on learning one of those tools in that depth, that you can really make it your own. You can use massive presets, but you can create your own massive presets yourself and really get something out of that synthesizer that no one else has, and therefore also create a sonic hook that you might stand out with. And then for the next record, you might want to go dive deep into Absinthe or whatever else it might be.
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. When we talked earlier about the mobile stuff, I want maybe Jason, because he's kind of a poster child of using great apps on the iPad, and you use iMachine. So maybe you can explain a little bit about how you use that, because I know one time when we were hanging out at your house, he played me this incredible groove that you made on the phone, on the iMachine, loaded it up on the desktop, he was in Machine, and boom.
Yeah, I'm just like what I was talking about before, I just like to, every once in a while just like geek out and get a bunch of music apps, because there's so many of them, I don't know, there's just so many crazy ones, so I get interested, especially when I'm traveling, and then I'll just get into it, on a plane. I remember I was with my boy Alex over there. He was tour managing. I was on my phone with Machine, you know what I mean? And I was just crazy into it.
Like Kanye.
Yeah, and the person behind me was had to tap me and tell me to calm down. But yeah, it's fun, man. It's because it's just like you were saying. It's simplifying the process. So it's just fun to have limitations and just having those sketches and then bring them out later. So.
But you use it on the road as well. On your performances, you incorporate iPads and stuff as well as the studio.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. I use the same Lemur and stuff, just more for MIDI control, and I use some apps as well to trigger chords and stuff. Yeah, if you guys haven't done that, there's this app called Studio Mux, and it does MIDI and audio just through lightning cable. You just plug it in and it'll just do MIDI and audio all. So it's pretty cool. I think that's it.
Do you use iPad and stuff on your?
I bought an iPad just because I had an idea for an app, and then somebody else, of course, had already made it. But I used to have like a old Omnichord. It's like a weird keyboard that has a strumming pad, so you can kind of play harp stuff. And I'm constantly like looking for something to kind of like make something that hasn't been heard before. So I was like, whoa, if this thing had a MIDI, I could like, because you can't play the harp thing on a normal keyboard because you're strumming it, and you can like the old Omnichords, you can tap them and make really amazing stuff. And yeah, there's an app called Polychord that's out there, and it's actually super sensitive and really awesome. And you basically have all these different chords you can click on, and then you strum whatever sound you want because it reads MIDI too. So now I can like plug it into my Jupiter and strum my Jupiter, and I think that's amazing. So I bought an iPad just so I could do that, and that's still the only thing I do with the iPad. So.
Do you guys use iPad or iPhone for music? I'm curious. There you go. All right. So Nick, you were talking. I'm sorry.
Actually, I have a question for you guys in terms of your creative process. You know, we're talking a lot about custom sounds versus factory sounds. How important is sound design to create that element of your track that's going to stand out versus the melody or the rhythm? Because we're seeing a lot of examples today from Brian or from you, Filip, I should rather say. What's more important in a way? Is it how the sound is sounding, or is it the way that it is played?
Man, sound design, like I fully delved into it probably like 3 years ago. Like really got into it. You know, I took a class, but I didn't really take it seriously. It was in college. But I've noticed that creating your own sounds gives you like, I don't know, I want to say like an edge, you know what I mean? Like when you make something, it can sound like reminiscent of something else you've heard, or, you know, it could just sound like something you've never heard before. If you're able to do that, I feel like it drives you to challenge your production, change it, you know, make it more more customized. And I feel like for a long time in the beginning when I started producing, I was just using presets. It's like, oh, this sounds good. I'm not altering it in any way. I'm just gonna play and keep it. And now it's like no presets. Like I can't just use a preset as it is. Like I have to do something. Like something has to be happening, you know? But sound design is key, I do believe. Like it's good to learn.
I think it's also the satisfaction of messing around with some machine or something and creating some results that maybe there's like a million presets that sound exactly the same, but you like messed your way into this, like, you know, like, I mean, I think that's the reason why people have modular synth still. It's like, it's this kind of like, it gets scientific and fun, and then you get a sound that you maybe imagined or something else happened, but as a producer, I think that just gives you a lot of satisfaction, and you know, it's supposed to be fun too, you know?
So Nick, I wanted to go back to the sort of portable, you know, recording, because I think all of us do that. What's in your backpack? What do you travel with to make music?
Yeah, everything I have was in my backpack. I got my laptop and my machine and my little complete audio and an iPad.
Headphones?
Headphones. That's
Okay.
it. Sometimes I bring my push, but I don't need it because I can use the iPad to
And
control
you use,
everything.
The Machine Mark II.
Yeah, well, I've got all of. Well, I don't have the
Studio.
the micro.
Oh,
I got the
yeah.
studio.
Yeah, that's right. You do have the studio. Of course you do.
Just wish I could bring it.
But you
it's hard to
perform-
bring with me.
You perform
with the Mark II. Yeah.
So if you've seen Big Grams or Phantogram, yeah, it's like
That's the
the
main
center stage instrument, pretty much. So
That's it.
You've probably seen him.
Oh yeah, I have something to say about the whole preset thing.
Okay.
So
Let's go.
yeah, I just feel like it's important just to like understand like basic synthesis. You know what I mean? Just like oscillator, like, you know, filter, ADSR, all that stuff. Just for a day, and then you know, then you'll have an idea of like how each like parameter will work and what you could tweak to make it, you know what I mean? Just like play with it for a day. But, and also if anyone uses a preset, like I never hate on that. Like if it's dope, then it's dope, you know, like don't get limited by like, oh man, I like the sound, but like it's a preset, just use it, you know?
Absolutely. I think there should be no shame if
Yeah,
it sounds
one of
great.
my favorite beats are just all like presets that everyone knows, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I believe if anyone's familiar with our song "Mouthful of Diamonds," the synth that the song starts with, I think it's just an absinthe preset. Slowed down. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I was saying. It's so many. That's the one thing I can say about NI. I can just say is that the presets are so good. There's so much effort that goes into the sound design that it's sometimes I feel like I'm cheating. It's like, this is too good. And then, of course, if you have the willpower to go deep and play around with it, it just really, you can make it your own. I'm also curious, which is interesting for everybody, is that how do you guys find help? I know some people look online, some people ask their colleagues. I mean, I have no pride. Like, I'll call somebody or I'll look on YouTube myself. Do you guys also do the same?
I am the help. I read the manuals. People call me. I am
point.
the help.
Okay, good point.
Yeah, it took a while. It took a while to get to that point, honestly. Like, again, when I first started producing, I had nobody to go to and ask questions. And YouTube had really just started out, I want to say, like, it was like not the go-to place to find information, but like it was like bubbling. So a lot of the times I was just doing things wrong for a long time until I realized, like, it took me a while to realize that I was recording all my sounds from my Triton in mono. And
Man.
I was like, I was just like, it sounds different when I play it. But when I record it, it sounds
you want to tell the
different.
story? Are you sure about this?
Yeah, no, I'm keeping it real. Like honestly, because I didn't know how to use Pro Tools. I started off with FL. You know what I mean? I was trying to figure that out, and that was dope. Then I moved to like this program called Sonar, which was cool. Then I went to Pro Tools. And then Pro Tools was, again, I had no direction. This is just me sitting there countless hours trying to figure it out. And for a long time, I built my studio myself. I wired everything myself. And it took me a while to really work out the kinks, to realize what was wrong, what was right, the best way to do things, the best formats and things like that. So it was a real learning process, from ground up. I didn't have any previous knowledge on.
So you just learning on the fly, which is
right. I was
finding mistakes.
Right. I knew music theory. I was going to music school since I was 7, but I didn't know the technical side. I didn't know about recording. I didn't know really about producing or anything about how to achieve certain sounds. So I would just see a piece of equipment and be like, oh, Dad, I want that. I wanted to learn how to use it, And then I'll have this expensive piece of equipment that I really didn't know how to use, and it was a learning curve. It would take a little bit.
So that kind of goes back to hi-fi versus lo-fi. I mean, I don't know if you guys are engineers by trade or went to school, but I think nowadays everybody kind of mixes their own stuff for the most part. Maybe not all the time, but maybe you guys can talk a little bit about, do you mix your own stuff or do you send it out? And does it change? It's because sometimes you mix something for someone and it's not as good.
The last couple of years I've mixed all my own stuff, and I do a bunch of mastering too, but I can't recommend it though. I mean, it's totally possible, and it's a lot. You can get a very professional sounds with limited equipment, but the only thing that's bad about mixing your own music is that it's a psychological thing. It's if you play a certain instrument and you do a good job, somehow you always want to boost the volume on that one instrument, and vice versa. So plus it's really when it's your own music, it can get really heady, and you end up sometimes spending way too much time compared to mixing should not be a long process, but if you're mixing your own music and you have unlimited recall, it can get bad and get dark.
But I think that's because
it's totally doable, but if you mix your own stuff, just be fast. Do it.
Well, because I think
fast as
now
possible.
everyone there's almost the lost art of mixing is gone because you're mixing as you go. You're producing. When you're writing, you're making a record. It's not like you're the writer, you're the producer, you're the mixer, you know, and blah, blah, blah.
It's kind of like just my kind of like way of thinking sometimes is imagine having your session on a tape machine actually, and you only have this like one slot booked to mix your track, and then you mix it and bounce it and just burn your session or delete it, I guess. But you know, like, because I don't think over mixing ever makes the track better. It just gets in your head. So, you know.
Jason, do you mix your own stuff?
I do, but like I don't really mix much. I create to fit like certain pockets of the sound. You know what I mean? I rarely use EQs. I just use a lot of filters, and then just find sounds and make parts to like fit those pockets.
But do you go into like I'm in writing mode, now I'm in mixing mode?
Oh, that's right.
You're making music.
Yeah, you're right. We're used to like having that instant gratification. So I kind of like mix and stuff like while I'm making it. You know what I mean? But then I really believe that there's no. It's so subjective. You know what I mean? There's like so many dope new music right now that are being released on a cassette format even right now. It's so futuristic right now. There's so many like different outlets and styles. So my favorite beats that I'm hearing right now are like the really raw, like unmastered, dirty sounding stuff. You know what I mean? They're not gonna get that mixed with someone, you know? Like,
right. So the lo-fi sound is something you're kind of going after. So
no, I'm just saying like there's no rules. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many different styles of music that's like at an exponential rate that whatever sounds good to you, just do it.